favorite time of year. So today we are talking about gratitude. Gratitude, the thing that changes everything, everything. You know, we talk about spiritual practices here in Centers for Spiritual Living. And I have people once in a while who say, well, what are spiritual practices? What are you talking about? What does that mean? And I can tell you it's really very simple. It boils down to three things. Number one is taking time in the silence, right? It's meditation, it's practicing mindfulness, it's quieting your mind so that you can tap into the wisdom of the divine, to make good decisions, so many things that go into meditation and mindfulness. So that's number one. The other thing is what we talked about for like 2 months just recently, was that idea of releasing things. You know, every day, I hope most of you brush your teeth and take a shower, right? You shake off the day, you get rid of the stuff that you don't need to carry along with you. Forgiveness and releasing needs to be one of those practices, just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. Shaking off whatever doesn't serve you from the day, right? Forgiving yourself, forgiving others, just keeping your mind and your kind of your psyche clean. The other thing is gratitude. Gratitude. It seems so simple. It feels like most of us think of gratitude as something that we give when things have turned out well or when life is great. You know, it's real easy to be happy and to be grateful. But we're going to talk about when things aren't so wonderful, and gratitude as a force that can turn your life around. I know it because I have seen it. I have experienced it myself personally. I teach this stuff in a lot of different places. You all now know that I'm teaching outside of here. This week I had the opportunity to speak with 50 teachers in elementary school in Gainesville about this very topic, about gratitude, social emotional learning, and some of the peace-building practices that we've been sharing here. And that's really exciting to me for us to be that mainstream. Right, so one session with 50 teachers and the other one with about a dozen, talking about these very issues. So I know that it changes things. I teach these principles in prison. I've taught them to children. And when people really get a grasp of this, especially gratitude is the easiest, simplest, the quickest thing that you can do, pretty much, besides your breath, besides tuning into your breath, giving gratitude. I've seen it as I said, at the prison. When I teach people this practice of sharing 3 things that you are grateful for every day. 3 things. That's the whole practice. 3 things. But once you say, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for sunshine, right? I'm grateful for permanent press clothes. You don't say that again, right? You say it the one time. The next day you come up with something else. And the day after that you come up with something else, and write it down. Write it down. And I invite you all to do this. Again, it's not difficult. Find yourself a little tiny notebook and just jot down 3 things every day. Do an experiment. Start today. For the next 3 weeks, jot down 3 things you are grateful for. And if you want to up the ante, share it with a friend. That will take it to another level.
Can we do it on Facebook so we can all do it together? I was just wondering if we could all do it on Facebook so that way we can all share our gratitudes with each other.
That would be wonderful. How many of you are up for that? To share on Facebook? That would be a wonderful thing. Yes, fabulous, fabulous. Watch how your life changes. And we'll talk in a month. And I want to hear your testimonials of how life has changed for you out of doing this very, very simple gratitude practice. Now, it's not just frilly, just this airy-fairy kind of stuff. There's actually science behind it. And I love when science backs up the things that we've been teaching. This is from a study in the early, I think, 2003, 2004, out of University of California, I think Davis. Anyway, research project on gratitude and thankfulness. And some of this is very obvious, right? People who live in that place of gratitude and thankfulness are more responsible and more committed, just in general. They're more alert and enthusiastic, right? Think about it. If you're coming from a place of gratitude, how different your day is than, say, coming from complaint. Right? How many of you have something you complain about? right this second. Does anyone have anything they could complain about? Absolutely, we all do, right? How many of you have something you could be grateful for? Right? How many of you know that your life and your day is going to be very, very different if you're focused on your complaint or if you're focused on all the things you have to be grateful for? And how many of you realize in every second you have the opportunity to make that choice? At every moment, in every circumstance. Right? So of course, people who are more grateful, more thankful, they're going to be more generous, they're less likely to judge other people, they are more likely to help others by offering emotional support because they're in a good space themselves. Right? It's kind of difficult to uplift other people when you're down in the dumps yourself, yes? Yes. So they're more likely to give support. They have, this one is lower rates of depression and stress. If you're giving thanks, right, you're going to be less depressed. You can't be in gratitude and be in despair at the same time. They are mutually exclusive. They have more energy and vitality. Who could use more of that? Right? Higher life satisfaction, more optimism and hope, fewer physical symptoms. You sleep better and you feel better about life. We should be bottling this stuff. Gratitude in a bottle. Right? How much better we would all be physically, emotionally, spiritually, just all around if we spent more time in gratitude and being grateful for the things that are in our lives right here, right now. What I did was just pull together a few of my very favorite quotes around gratitude and thought we'd just kind of have a conversation about them. This one comes from Melody Beattie, I think is how you say her name. Is that right? Yeah, Melody Beattie? Okay, very good. One of my favorites. Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, it brings peace for today, and it creates a vision for tomorrow. I just love that. And when I read that quote, I think about one of the gentlemen at the prison, Bill, who I've talked about before. Bill was a gentleman who was a professional. He was an engineer in his regular life, but he had some issues. He didn't know quite how to deal with his emotional baggage and his pain. And Bill was what you call kind of the hatchet guy at work. You know, when someone needed to reprimanding or someone was going to be fired or whatever it was, Bill was the one that they sent out to do that. And Bill was okay with that because Bill lacked compassion. And it was really just business. It was just all about business. So his bosses would joke and say, Bill gets the job done, but you know, there's always dead bodies in his wake. You know, and it doesn't seem to bother him. And he would joke about that. Until one day, when he got into a little bit of a tiff with his significant other, and had a couple of drinks and was going to go out to commiserate with his friends. Only this time, as he got into his car, his nice BMW, took a ride to visit his friend, there was actually a dead body because he was intoxicated. And he hit someone, a 19-year-old man, and killed him. Now, Bill had a wife, he had his son was 7 at the time. And you know, his life changed in an instant for one bad decision, a 15-year sentence. But when I met Bill looked skeletal. He looked like he looked like he was in terrible pain. And he was in terrible emotional pain. You could feel it, one of those people that just oozed hurt. And he was looking for something, and we kind of came together at just the right time, Bill and I and the rest of the group. And Bill took this practice of gratitude, and he owned it. He made it his. And day after day, he would dig from the depths of his pain and his sorrow for something to be grateful for every day. Every day. And you know, it probably took 6 months. You know, I worked with Bill for a couple of years, and it was probably 6 months to a year that I started seeing physical changes. He looked like he was putting on weight. He had some color in his cheeks. He was stepping up in leadership, all because of this practice of gratitude, which opened the door for him to be available to everything else. It changed, it made sense of his past, brought him some semblance, some little bit of peace for the situation that he was in. Because there was no changing it, right? He had a sentence, it was not going to be commuted. He had to serve his time. He had to find some kind of peace in that moment. And gratitude did that for him. Also helped give him that vision for a brighter tomorrow. That he was grateful that he still could have a relationship with his son, that he had someone that would bring his son to the prison, and he got to see his son at least once a month, which was better than nothing, to be able to stay connected. So gratitude changes everything. Be thankful for what you have, and you'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. Who said that? The very brilliant Oprah Winfrey. Isn't that the truth? This is like metaphysics 101. This is law of attraction, right? If you are focused, if you're thinking constantly in scarcity and what you don't have, and it's not good enough, and going on, you stay focused on that. Again, are you going to focus on your complaints, or are you going to focus on your blessings? Life is very different, depending on where you put your focus. Be thankful for what you have, and you will have more. This one, in everything give thanks. In everything give thanks. This is, I think, an interesting one. Because it says in everything, not for everything, give thanks, but in every circumstance give thanks. And there's a distinction. We all have things that happen to us. And as I look back on some of the challenges in my own life, I wouldn't necessarily give thanks for almost going into bankruptcy. I wouldn't give thanks for health challenges. I'm sure Bill is not giving thanks for the accident that landed him in prison. But we can find things to be grateful for within difficult circumstances. Right? We don't give thanks for the circumstance itself, but find things to be grateful for in that moment that can help pull you out into a higher vibration, into greater consciousness and greater awareness. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Gratitude in difficult times is evolutionary. When I see this, I think of a woman that was participated in a workshop. It's probably been 10 years ago now, but it was that impactful for me. I would have people do these, what we called a life wheel. And it had your life kind of divided into 6 pieces. So there's your physical life, there's your relationships, there's your work life, various things that go into life. And what we would do is I'd give them colored pencils, and each section of that pie, they would fill into the degree that they felt fulfilled in that part of their life. So if relationships were going really well, they might fill out that portion of the pie with their red crayon or their red pencil all the way to the edges. And if they felt like, physically speaking, they were at the top of their game, they could fill it out all the way to the end. But now if things were not so great physically, or things weren't so great at work or in the relationship, you would do a percentage. So instead of looking like a full wheel, most people's look like this, depending on what their situation was. Rarely did I get anyone who filled out their life wheel, the whole thing, all the way out to the edges. Like, I am 100% satisfied. I love every aspect of my life. Every once in a while, there was a person who would do that. I remember a coworker who did it, and I thought, oh, you lying. Because I hear you complaining day in and day out. I don't think that's really accurate, but, who am I to say? So there is some maybe outside affirmation. There are some people that when they tell you life is good and they're great, that you believe it. You feel it. You know it because that's who they are. That's who they exude. That's what they walk into the room with. So this woman did her circle all the way to the edges, and she was a nurse's aide in a nursing home. And she was one of those people that when they walk in the door, they light up the space. Y'all know people like that? Everybody just feels better when they're around them. And she was that kind of person. She was a light when she walked in the room. And she filled out her circle all the way to the edges. And her co-workers just affirmed, what an amazing woman she was. But the thing that was so mind-blowing about this situation was that this woman had lost her adult daughter in a car wreck just a month before we did this exercise. Now, I'm a parent. I know we've got lots of parents in here. And for me to think about losing one of my kids, that's got to be at the top of the list of awful things that a person could go through. This woman had gone through that, but it was losing her daughter, that she got such an appreciation for her life, for living right here, right now, in the moment. Instead of taking her down into a pit of despair like it does for so many of us, right? It somehow uplifted her so that she could lift others. I'll never forget that woman. Gratitude in difficult times is evolutionary, right? We talk about those levels of consciousness, the upward spiral. When you can find something to be grateful for in a moment of difficult times, it will pull you on up. It will pull you out, and it will make you stronger than you ever thought you could be. It won't make you stronger. You will find that strength that you have within you. Right? Gratitude in difficult times is evolutionary. I was going to make this interactive a little bit today. Does anyone want to share anything about that? So I think I might have a couple of people here. Manifestations? Go for it.
So one of the biggest manifestations for me in doing spiritual practice is the other day, my whole family, we were going through a financial challenge because I got called off a lot of work. So, of course, when I don't work because I work per diem, I don't get paid, which means the bills don't get paid. And it's just one of those things, maybe going to work half as much as I normally would. And we didn't know how to fix it. So as a family, we're all trying to do it together, but we didn't know how to fix it. And then I said, everybody wait, go back to principal, and we do this a lot in our family. What is it that we're missing? And I said, we need to do treatment about this. Duh. So we got together, we held hands, we did treatment, and then when we said, and so it is, we let go of what the outcome is, how the money was going to come for the bills, everything. The next day, in the mail, was a check. We paid all our bills. We were able to have Crimson's birthday party. We did all of that, and I thought, wow, isn't that awesome? And then the more we gave, another check showed up in the mail. And I was like, look at that. That's just incredible. So every time when you have no clue what to do, just stop, go into affirmative prayer, and, signs of mind, we say treatment, let go of it, and just watch it work.
And we give gratitude. We give gratitude. It is one of the 5 steps of treatment, is to give gratitude for the thing you're praying for. We have another.
Hello.
So I did the same thing. Me and the kids, we normally get food stamps every month. And we didn't get them this month, so we didn't have much food. So me and the kids did an affirmation, and we got donations from the kids' school. The principal actually went out and bought groceries themselves and met us out in front of the house and gave us food. Then the kids came home with an extra backpack of food, and so we've been abundant in food. So we do treatments a lot, me and the girls, and it always works. I think when kids do them, it makes it go even more.
Yeah, when kids treat, when kids pray, kids stay closer to the source.
So I just got a new apartment, and I'm still getting into the flow of paying rent every month. And so I'm pretty good about judging my paychecks, but I thought that this past week I was going to be about $400 short than what I was. So I was going to use my last paycheck, using that grace period that everyone gives to just stretch it and to pay my bills and then just live off of what I had for another week. So I'm like, okay, there's kind of a plan in place. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that it is going to happen. So we're just going to go with it, right? I go in, it's payday, I pick up my check because I still do the paper check thing. And there was one check, but attached to that check was another check for another $400 on top of it. So there was groceries for a week, and electric, and a nice new rug too. So it happens, people. You just got to think about it that way.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Oh, we have another one.
Well, mine's kind of the same. I raised my granddaughter, and she's in college, and she works all the time, and married. But her finances have just drained me and my husband both, you know. And so the last time she called me, I'm like, you know, I was so tore up. She'd never asked for money, you know, but she told me how hard up she was. And I told my friend, I said, you know what? I was tore to pieces. And then I said, I can't do this. So I give it to God. And after a couple of weeks, I give it to him again and say, keep it. But I just completely let it go. And she called me yesterday because I could see no hope. No more money could come in. She could not do any more hours at work. And she had called me, and I'd taken her a sewing machine for Christmas and her birthday, and all the stuff that you need for that. And she's still in college, so that's going on. And she told me, she said, I give myself a goal to make $500 in 6 weeks. In 2 weeks, she made $2,000. I am so thankful. She said, keep praying, Nanny, keep praying. So I am so, because I couldn't figure it out. I thought it couldn't be done. You know, so it's, you don't have to figure it out. You just have to give it to God.
That's right.
And I am really thankful.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Which brings me to the next point, that gratitude in advance is the most powerful creative force in the universe.
I did that too.
That's right. We release with gratitude, knowing that our good is coming, knowing that our good is already there, that we just step into it. That's what we teach about gratitude here, that we can give gratitude before, and that by giving that gratitude, it actually opens up the channel so that we can receive even faster what it is that we have prayed for. But it's praying with the gratitude, with the knowing that it already exists.
Cindy.
Yes, let's get you a mic.
This is just real quick. Prevention Magazine came out this month with the new G vitamin. And the new G vitamin is gratitude. And so it's getting out there in the world when it's on the cover of Prevention Magazine, the new vitamin.
I said we should bottle this stuff, right?
That's right. Take your vitamins, people. It's gratitude.
It's gratitude, yes. This quote reminds me again of the prison when we walked in for our first Gavel Club meeting. And there were a dozen volunteers. I've shared this story before. And most of us had never been behind prison walls, the barbed wire, all of that. It was a little scary experience. But we walked into this room of about 45, 50 men, all with chairs all lined up in front, and we walked in the door and they stood up and gave us a standing ovation like we were rock stars. The gratitude, it was just like, she's crying, I see Gail, because you could just feel the immense gratitude. We hadn't even done anything yet, we just showed up. But sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes it's just about showing up for people. I had the opportunity yesterday, speaking of gratitude being a creative force. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to teach class to a group of ministerial students from the Florida campus. And in preparing for my talk, which was on peace building principles, I thought back to my first ministerial class. And how I sat in that room, in a little classroom in Eustis. Reverend Beth was there. It was probably one of her last classes. It was one of my first. And I sat there in that class, just this feeling of overwhelming gratitude. I could barely speak. The tears just flowing. It just was this, oh my gosh, how amazing to think about all of the twists and turns and pieces of my life that had to just come together for me to sit in that place, in that moment, and be where I was, I knew that it was exactly where I was supposed to be. All of those things had to happen exactly the way they did for me to be where I was. And there was just this, oh my gosh, what an incredible feeling. And they asked us then, you know, what is your mission? What's your goal? And I sat there, and I don't know where the words came from, but I said, I am to be a teacher of teachers. 7 years ago I said this. I'm to be a teacher of teachers. Now there was a part of me that was saying, who the heck do you think you are? Right? To teach. What do you have to teach people? What do you know? You know, what do you have to share? What does anybody want to hear from you? There was that little voice that was saying those things. That there was a part of me that was in that mode of creating my future from a space of gratitude. Like, it's unstoppable when you come from that space. And here I was, yesterday, 7 years later, talking to a group of ministers in training about these principles that I was taught, right, that I now share. And to have spent this week with all of those teachers, 50 teachers, you know, in that elementary school, you know. So gratitude in advance is a powerful, powerful creative force. So as when we pray in our 5-step spiritual mind treatment prayer, one of them, well, they're all important steps, but a very, very important step is that gratitude piece, that we give thanks in advance for our good and make the way for it to be welcome. Anybody?
Share the 5 steps, Cindy, so
Sure.
that those out there listening can hear.
Thank you, Gail. What an excellent idea. The 5 steps of treatment, the 5 steps of prayer. Are you ready to receive? The first one is recognition, is recognizing that power and presence that is in and around and through all things. And whatever you need to do to remind yourself of that, to go outside and walk in the trees, to spend some time holding a baby, to pet your favorite animal, and just remember, we didn't create all of this. This whole setup was here, right? Before you and me got here. When we leave, it's still going to be here. We didn't create it. We are co-creators within that. We create our experience, but we didn't create all this. We didn't create all this. So we want to recognize that power and presence. Then we want to unify ourselves with that, or recognize the fact that we are already unified with that. Right? I am part of that oneness. So are you. We are all part of that. Then we speak our truth. We recognize the wisdom, the power, the abundance, the good, whatever it is that we want to claim from this field of infinite potential, we claim it. We claim it, we speak it. And we know, right? That's the part where gratitude in advance, claiming your good, speak it out, and then we give thanks for it. Then we give thanks, and then guess what? We let it go.
Amen.
Right? I have done my part, release it. Release it. I have done my piece. I have put it into the universe. I know that this possibility exists, or it wouldn't be coming to me. And now I let it go and let the universe bring it to me in its way. Whatever that looks like. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. And once in a while, you may have to pray again, because the old stuff comes back. The old patterns, the doubts, the confusion, that stuff can kind of slip back in. So you pray again, and you release it again. As often as you need to do it. But you know, when you've really released it, you've really released it. And then it could be 7 years, and you go, wow, wait a minute, I put that ball in motion all those years ago, and look, here I am.
Yay.
Here I am. Anything else? Anybody want to share? Do you want to share anything, Beth?
Gratitude is a powerful force in, as it says, it is the most powerful creative force in the universe. But I want to go back a step to gratitude in difficult times, and that's the hardest part for me and hardest part for everyone, to give gratefulness, to give thanks for those challenges which come into our life. And so I share with you a personal experience that is so powerful that it is almost unbelievable, but it's true. So this past Sunday, I was not with you. I was in the emergency room at West Marion Hospital, diagnosed with a heart attack. I had gone in Saturday night with chest pains, shortness of breath, very high blood pressure, all of the symptoms, all of those things that the allopathic field, the doctors, all put together. They take electrocardiograms, they take blood tests, and they say, you had a heart attack. So what to do in that situation? I go back to the teaching very quickly. It didn't take me long. And this is the value of practicing this on a regular basis, so that when you are in that moment, that, oh, you go right there. You don't stay anywhere else. You just move right into that place of saying, oh my goodness. For, I guess, about 5 or 6 minutes, I was in a place of fear and worry. And then I moved into that place of gratitude. I looked at every individual who served me and said, thank you. Thank you from my heart of hearts. I thanked my husband who was beside me holding my hand. I thanked each person who came in to serve me in a way of healing and of gratefulness. And I also thanked this experience for whatever I had to learn from it. And I stayed overnight. They gave me all of the tests and the stress tests. I met with a cardiologist on Sunday morning, and he said, well, whatever I saw on Saturday is not there anymore. On Sunday, you are totally free, you are totally healed, and you have no heart attack. You have no heart attack, nothing. But maybe you had some indigestion. This teaching is not a teaching that comes from outside somewhere and is asking you to do anything. This is a teaching that enables you to really live your fullest potential, your fullest life, and be one with that power that created you, and that power that is continually flowing and working through you at all times, no matter where you are or what you're doing.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're so thrilled to have music. Yeah, that Beth is here, that our beautiful Gail is back, and we're just so thrilled. Yes, prayer works. Prayer works. So this is the last thought I will leave you with, other than our affirmation. What if you woke up tomorrow with only the things you're grateful for today?
Yeah.
Right? What a thought.
I accept it.
Accept it, right? What if you wake up tomorrow with only the things you're grateful for today?
Wow, put the gratitude out there now.